What's up, everybody? I wanted to go over the 2024 North America International Championship results, and for anybody who hasn't seen it, but also just like to gush about just how crazy of a tournament that was, right? Like Patrick Connors taking it all the way with Calyrex Ice, like an incredible run. Like if you haven't seen that set, like go watch the set and then come back and just like we'll go over all the teams, because like what an impressive showing. Like that's what it takes to be a champion, you know what I mean? Like him talking about like conditioning his opponent to expect a certain play and a certain play style and the way that things are going to go, and then just coming in, bringing in that Pelipper in game 3.
They're trying to break through these screens. Wow! A huge adjustment from Patrick, bringing out the Pelipper. And for those of you at home who are wondering why this crowd is going crazy for a Pelican, Pelipper has wide guard, which means that Terra Starstorm that Aurelian has just locked into is useless.
And just sealing it up, right? Like he won in team preview in game 3. Like he, a true masterclass, like a real, like he deserves that win. Like Aurelian Sula almost had it with the Terapagos. Like I had my money on Terapagos, right? I thought Terapagos was definitely going to take. This was going to be the Terapagos tournament that was going to take it and just like shake up the meta and have Koraidon and like Zamazenta spike up in usage again. But we see Patrick Connors take it with the Calyrex Ice, and I just thought, you know, like let's take a look at this team, right? We see the Incineroar with the safety goggles, with the Terra Ghost, like it's pretty standard. We do see him opting for the Will-O-Wisp instead of the Taunt that we have seen on some of the Incineroars. I figure Taunt is really good when you are afraid of Trick Room going up, but it being the Calyrex Ice player, I could see how you would opt for the Will-O-Wisp to be able to hit things like Rillaboom, things like Iron Hands, things like other Calyrex Ices, right? A really good tech here. Like I think Will-O-Wisp is kind of the way we've been seeing a lot of Incineroars run. It's kind of been, they've been dropping the Flare Blitz mainly because of this guy right here, right? The Pelipper coming in game 3 and just like absolutely winning the match almost by itself, right? Like this Pelipper has been so good in this regulation, like having the wide guard with the rain, with a focus sash, like being able to, like thematically, I'm not a very big fan of Pelipper. I've always thought it was kind of an annoying Pokemon, so to see it like get results is like it hits my little 10-year-old brain, like my little 10-year-old heart is breaking to see like one of my least favorite Pokemon like get results like this. But I mean, it's a goofy mon that just does really good things, right? It'll outright win a game if it's positioned right, and you're able to click the wide guard, you're able to hit the weather ball for really big damage in that rain. A really like just good toolkit to have, right? Especially with the Calyrex Ice. Like really good call into this meta. We do see the Terra Normal on the Rillaboom that is presumably for those Calyrex Shadow teams, right? You're able to absorb the Astral Barrages pretty well with this Assault Vest on the Rillaboom, right? But having just be Terra Normal and not worrying about it, like it just puts you in a much better position, right? Like if you're against the Calyrex Shadow, you have Incineroar, a Terra Normal Rillaboom, right? And you could just bring the rain mode and be able to just kind of outspeed with a Choice Scarf and just in the rain, like you're gonna be just fine, especially if the Rillaboom can come in and out as it pleases, right? You can just sit in front of a Calyrex Shadow at that point. But really well played. Something we have also seen here is the booster energy on the Raging Bolt with the Terra Fairy. To me, this is kind of like the best of both worlds when it comes to Raging Bolt. The Assault Vest has been kind of you know on the wayside, like it's there, but it's not as prevalent as this booster energy is, right? Like with the regulation being just a little bit more powerful, having Raging Bolt be able to come in and get the special attack boost and just click even stronger moves like Thunderbolt and Thunderclap allows you to pick up a lot of the KOs that you were missing out on with the Assault Vest. So a really good tech here. I think booster energy is probably what we're going to see going forward. And I mean, you can expect to see this team on ladder if you haven't already, right? Like this team seems really good, really well positioned, and just the little tweaks, right? It's the little tweaks that really make the team as successful as it was. Aurelian Sula in second place here with a Terapagos. So like I said, my money was definitely on the Terapagos winning NAIC. I felt like it was really well positioned with how many Calyrex Shadows were popping up, especially after winning LA Regionals, after winning Bologna. Like, this was it was the time that Terapagos wins it, right? But I mean, Patrick Honors had something to say about that, right? So, but we do see the Iron Hands, which we saw a lot of at NAIC. Iron Hands coming in and being able to, with the Assault Vest, being able to take a lot of those restricted moves and be able to dish out a lot of damage with the Drain Punch, the Heavy Slam, the Wild Charge. Like, you're able to come in and really like threaten a lot of the restricted and a lot of the Pokemon in the meta. And Iron Hands, because it finally has an ability with Court Drive, right? If you're against the Miraidon, like, the Iron Hands is just stronger. So like, a really well positioned Pokemon. I'm happy to see it come back. I'm always happy when there's a really good fighting type in the meta that isn't named Urshifu. Urshifu is a little annoying, right? To me, it's a fighting type, like, it's obviously a fighting type, but to me, Iron Hands is the more like classic fighting type, right? Like the Machamp, the Conkeldurr, like, that's kind of what I think of when I think of a really good fighting type. So happy to see Iron Hands come back here. The Grimmsnarl was something that we are finally seeing a lot of, right? So this getting second place. Like, we saw Grimmsnarl do really well in previous restricted formats. So to see it come back with the Light Clay, the Terra Ghost to try to avoid some of the fake outs, right? And just having a very disruptive plan, right? The Thunder Wave, the Reflect, the Foul Play, the Light Screen, like, just being able to, having Terapagos, which is already a pretty bulky Pokemon, be able to be behind screens is really good, right? Because it allows you to get like that third Terra Starstorm off, right? Or that extra Terra Starstorm off that you need to pick up the KOs and win the game. We did see that the Thunder Wave come in of a few times, right? Even like that, I think it was like the set right before finals. Probably it was one of Aurelian Sula's like last sets where he like Thunder Wave his own Terapagos to make it slower under Trick Room and be able to underspeed and therefore, I guess, outspeed in Trick Room his opponent. Was just like I wonder if how many times he's done that, like prepping for NAIC, right? Like, I would love to ask the guy, like, how many times have you done that in prep versus, or was that just like something that you came up with in the moment? Because that was a really cool play, something that I really like to see. We do see the taunt on the Urshifu Rapid Strike here with the safety goggles, so in opting for more of a defensive item rather than the Choice Scarf that we normally see on the Urshifu, right? We do see the taunt, which is also very good into the Amoonguss. Like, I suppose this team does not have a whole lot of Amoonguss answers other than the Chi-Yu, which we do see here with the Focus Sash. Chi-Yu obviously pairing up very nicely with the Flutter Mane and the Terapagos, right? Like, being able to set up with an Iron Hands and then having like Terapagos, Flutter Mane, and Chi-Yu, a very offensive threat, like very offensive pressure into your opponents and really hard to beat. We do see the Tri Attack on the Terapagos here, which I thought was a really cool tech. There is always a chance that you get a status move from the Tri Attack, which is pretty cool, especially like if you don't want to, if you are already Terra'd, right, and you don't necessarily want to click Terra Starstorm because you're afraid of the Wide Guard, right? Tri Attack is another stab move that you can go ahead and click that will do a lot of damage, being that it is a normal type, and so are you. So really cool team. But let's take a look at some of these other ones, right? So we only see one Caloric Shadow in all of top 8, which after it winning those 2 tournaments right before NAIC was actually interesting to see. We do see that it paired up with Smeargle, which we just talked about on the Fake Out podcast recently, about how Smeargle is probably one of the best partners for the Caloric Shadow. Right, it's fast. It's got Moody. It has the Spore, the Follow Me, the Wide Guard, the Spiky Shield. We have seen a few different versions of what the last move is. Sometimes it's sometimes it's Spiky Shield. Sometimes it's Decorate for the Calyrex Ice team. So Smeargle making a comeback, which triggers me a little bit, you know. But at least it's not Dark Void, right? Dark Void would be really annoying here. But the Caloric Shadow with the Citrus Berry, again, we see like this bulky Caloric Shadow build that is probably a little harder to beat than just like, you know, max speed, max special attack. We do see two Kyogres, each with just like the coolest tech, like Tang Shiliang, like just bringing the Wo Chen. Just, it's been kind of a meme in VGC, right? It's been kind of a meme that the Wo Chen is like, oh, it's gonna fucking do it, and it's like, dude, Wo Chen just coming in here and just sitting in front of all of its threats with Leech Seed, Ruination, and Pollen Puff, and just sitting there and slowly draining the opponent's HP. Just like, really cool, especially behind screens with the Grimmsnarl, right? Like we do see the Kyogre with the Assault Vest, so we see a really, really bulky team that's hard to kind of just get through. And then you still have to deal with an Urshifu Rapid Strike, or sitting here with the Iron Jugglers just snarling everything and making it impossible for you to break through these walls. Really cool tech. We also see Henry Rich's Kyogre team, which has the Overquill with a Life Orb. Like, we saw this thing on stream. It probably didn't do everything that it could have on stream than when we saw it. But I'm sure like throughout the tournament run and probably in his prep, like this was probably the coolest thing, right? Because it's a dark type that also deals with the Rillaboom that threatens your Kyogre. It deals with all of the grass types that your Kyogre just doesn't want to go into. And it also is really good into the Calyrex Shadow because you do threaten with that Crunch, and you also threaten with the Gunk Shot, being as how a lot of the Calyrex Shadows are Terra Fairy. So having one Pokemon that has the Dark and Poison coverage on one Pokemon that outspeeds the Calyrex Shadow, just a really, really cool tech that I think none of us saw coming, right? We do see a couple more techs like the Ditto on Austin Burns' team. Let's take a look at like top 32, right? Like, so we see like a Talonflame here on Z's team. Z brought a Talonflame that I think is actually really good into. So this is something I was testing prior to NAIC here. Like, I think Talonflame just has a really, really interesting niche here, right? So it's a Prankster Tailwind setter. Well, not to say Prankster, right? It's Gale Wings, right? Gale Wings gives it the ability to have the Prankster-ish, right? The +1 priority on the Tailwind, and you're a Talonflame, which has pretty high speed, so you're able to get that off before a lot of other Pokemon. And then you also just have a really threatening Brave Bird. So like that Brave Bird, you know, if you played when Talonflame was a new Pokemon, like, you know how hard that Brave Bird can hit. So seeing the Brave Bird, the Talonflame come back and just doing all these nasty things here, it threatens a lot of the Rillaboom that like a team like this doesn't really want to see, right? A team like a Miraidon team just doesn't want to see a Rillaboom. So Talonflame threatening a Will-O-Wisp, threatening the Tailwind, threatening the Brave Bird, like a really threatening Pokemon that with the Terra Ground pairs up really nicely with the Miraidon. We also see the Silk Scarf on the Ursaluna Blood Moon with a Calm Mind. I don't think we've seen a Calm Mind variant of Ursaluna Blood Moon, but I mean, getting 9th place is no easy task, man. So I'm sure that this was a risk that I think paid off really well. So really cool to see. What else did we see? A couple more Dittos, some more Calyrex Shadows. We do see this Electabuzz that Alex Underhill brought along with the rest of his team, right? The Tub Nation that he likes to call it. With the Eviolite Vital Spirit, right? So this is able to follow me a lot of the spores that would threaten your Pokemon, especially the Calyrex Ice. Like the Calyrex Ice does not want to fall asleep, right? So to prevent a lot of the bad matchups into something like an Amoonguss, like the Electabuzz can sit there and just click follow me. Click follow me with an Eviolite. Faint breaks a lot of the Wide Guards that you don't want to see with the Glacial Lance, right? And Taunt to prevent any sort of double Trick Rooms or something like that. Like just having Taunt on your support Pokemon here, like Electabuzz was a very, very cool. Electabuzz was a very, very cool addition to this team that I think nobody saw coming, but definitely made sense once we saw it, right? The Electabuzz with the Eviolite, a really cool tech, and we also have the Decorate Smeargle on here. I don't know if I noticed that before, but the Decorate Smeargle into the Calyrex Ice, like always a threat, like really hard to beat. Like once you have that going, it's really hard to beat. And under somebody like Alex Underhill, like that's gonna be real threatening. So some really cool teams. I have to talk about Michael Zhang's team before I wrap up the video here. Michael Zhang bringing the Tyranitar. So this is something that like I've been playing for a lot of the regulation. Is Tyranitar has a really, really interesting niche into this meta because of how many Focus Sashes are being ran currently. So like if we go to Lab Mouse real quick and let me show you guys this. So Focus Sash was actually the #1 item at NAIC, right? Focus Sash has went under 76% usage on teams, right? Three out of four teams had a Focus Sash on it, which makes sense. It's a very, very good item. So to have Tyranitar be able to come in and break all sashes except for like Ogerpon Cornerstone gets around it because it's a rock type, right? But to break all the sashes, the sturdies, all the little bits of damage that you need to be able to pick up a lot of the knockouts. Breaks the Terra Shell as well. Like the Sandstream is very, very good on Tyranitar, and also being a rock type with its own Sandstream ability allows you to just kind of absorb special hits, right? A Chi-Yu does like nothing into a Tyranitar. A Terapagos doesn't do a whole lot into a Tyranitar. Even like an Earth Power is like a 2-hit KO. It's not a 1-hit KO. And to even top it all off, like having its own Focus Sash now being able to be broken by the Sandstream ability, fantastic. It being Terra Ghost is kind of necessary for the fighting types that are in the meta. So that is one thing that's holding Tyranitar back, is just like there's Koraidon, there's Mindshao, right? There's Iron Hands. There's a bunch of fighting types that Tyranitar doesn't want to see. But that's where, you know, Latios comes in. That's where Fluttermane comes in. And the Zamazenta can come in and also like absorb a lot of the, just kind of come in and clean up once a lot of the threats are taken care of. So a really cool team. Not something, so like Rillaboom Tyranitar is something that is interesting, right? Because Rillaboom will be healing your opponent while also taking damage from the sand. But as long as it works in the correct order, I think you should be okay. Where the sand chip will happen first, and then the terrain happens after. So a really cool team. I loved seeing it. Like I was so excited. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm sure you saw me get really excited about this team. So what else do we got? So we do see a Gastrodon on 18th place here, very well positioned, especially with how many Kyogre were at NAIC. That was definitely something that was going around. We do see an Entei, the Cody Sharp's Entei that I think we saw on stream. A very cool team. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to go over some of the teams that I thought were interesting and some of the interesting meta calls that I know people were surprised by, like the Overquill, right? The Overquill in top 8. I'm not sure anybody ever thought of that, right? Like the Talonflame here that we see in top 16. Like Regulation G is just such an open meta. Like I know that it's frustrating to have like one restricted. I know that it's not something that a lot of people like to play in, but I've just been so surprised, like pleasantly surprised, with how open, like, and creative a lot of the teams have been. A lot of Pokemon that just you would never think to use. Like, was anybody expecting Overquill to actually get a top 8 at an international tournament? There's a lot of Pokemon that I don't think that we were expecting, but like people are just like really innovating and taking it to that next level, right? Like Regulation G has been so interesting to watch, and I'm excited for Worlds. Worlds is in 2 months, right? It's in August, so it's June, July, yeah. So it's gonna be closer than we realize. Like I know there's not a big tournament coming up, but I'm sure people will be testing things on Showdown. They'll be testing things through Limitless Tours. Like I'm excited to see where it goes. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I had a good time talking about it. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel, I'll do more of these. I think I need to put more content out there. So if you guys stayed around to the end, like, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.